Hello and welcome back. In this session, we're going to talk about Salesforce's sharing architecture, and let's start at the base of the pyramid with profiles and permission sets. Users are assigned a profile, and the profile that is assigned to the user dictates the baseline level of access and permissions they are granted in the Salesforce org. There are two types of profiles. Standard profiles cannot be deleted or edited, but they can be cloned. Then we have custom profiles, which we create for users ourselves. When a user does require more access or permissions than the profile allows, then permission sets can be created and assigned to users, and that grants them more access and more permissions. But let's head into Salesforce and take a closer look. We're going to head into Setup and open up a profile, so we could take a look at some of the information that we could see there. But before we do that, I'm just going to head into the user management settings. And I'm going to turn on Enhanced Profile User Interface. It makes it much easier to find and locate what we need. Then, if we search for profiles and we open up the Custom Support profile, we can see two areas, App Settings and System Settings. App Settings contain all the settings for your apps, and System Settings contain all of the system settings. The first option that we have is to set what apps are available for users with this profile. But I want to draw your attention to the object settings, and if we open that up, we can see all the objects and the CRED permissions that users with this profile will have. CRED stands for Create, Read, Edit and Delete. So can users create records of this object? Can they read them? Can they edit them? And can they delete them? You can also see the tab settings for objects, and there are three options: Default On, Default Off and Tab Hidden. Default On means that the object will appear in the navigation bar as standard as long as it's included in the app. Default Off means that the object will not appear in the navigation bar, but users can add it to their navigation bar and they can find the object through searching for it in the app launcher menu. Then we have Hidden, which means the users cannot see the tab and they cannot access that object at all. So what happens if a user needs more access and permissions than their profile gives them? Well, there's a couple of options. One, we can create a new profile for the user that grants them exactly what they need. Two, we could clone a profile and make the changes. Or three, we can create and assign a permission set that grants them what they need. Type in permission sets, we'll then open up the permission set tab. Permission sets can be assigned to users to grant them more functionality than the profile permits. They are a way of granting users more permissions without modifying or creating new profiles. If we open up one of our permission sets, you can see that it looks very similar to that of our profiles. And if we head into the object settings, we can make changes to the object access and the object permissions. An example of when we would use a permission set is if we had a set of users whose profile gave them create, read and edit permissions for the lead object, but we had one user who we wanted to grant the ability to delete records. We could create a new profile for them, but the easiest way to grant them that delete permission for lead records would be to create a permission set with the delete permission for leads and then assign it to the user. Now, if that user needed to be assigned another permission set, we could do that, or we could create a permission set group, which would then allow us to assign a number of permission sets to the user through one permission set group. It's a quicker way of assigning multiple permission sets. You can also create muting permission sets, which will mute permissions granted by the permission set groups. This is useful if you have a permission set group that grants permission that you don't want to be granted. Rather than having to create a new permission set or permission set group, you can just create a muting permission set which will stop the desired permission being granted. So let's wrap this up with a quick summary. Profiles dictate the baseline level of access and permissions. Standard profiles come out of the box with Salesforce. They cannot be deleted or edited, but they can be cloned. And then we have custom profiles which are created by system administrators. These can be deleted and edited, and they can also be cloned. Then we have permission sets. They are used to grant more functionality than a profile permits. Permission sets can be combined into permission set groups which can be assigned to users, and then if there is a permission that's granted that we don't want to be granted, we can use a muting permission set just to mute that permission.